Not gonna lie, last week's road trip talk was a little bit too melancholy. I swear, I must be one of the most depresso espresso VTubers out there on the interwebs. And I mean, the whole point of this little experiment was to have fun, right? So this week, I'd like to do things differently. Let's be a bit more chipper this time, shall we? Y'all might remember back in May, I did a little Who is Madeline Aria video. I talked about the basics, who I am, what I've done, and what I want to do. It was also shortly after that whole heart attack incident and the video which followed, where I explained what a dumbass I am when it comes to doing eccentric bullshit for internet clout. So for today's, I guess, re-debut, I'd like to clarify a few things from that video, make some corrections, answer some things that have been asked of me in the meantime. First of these, probably the most asked question on a handful of my videos, has been, what the hell is your profile picture? I hate it here. Look, people, there was a time in my life where I was insanely flexible, so I had a line art commission based on a photo of me with my legs behind my head, because it's one of the most basic contortion poses ever, okay? And even years after that photo was taken and the line art was made, I still hold on to that desire and the eccentricity around it. So I am going to refresh that photo throughout my YouTube career, if you can call this a career. And yes, I know it's not very say-so, it's actually rather sus, but you know what? That's just me. I am not very say-so. If you look at my Twitter, you will find that I am very obviously not say-so. And that brings me to my second topic. When I did my 3-month video, I pointed out that my target demographic with 75% of viewership was 18 to 34-year-olds. It's still about that ratio, and then another 15% are older than 34. Some younger people do tune in here and there, so I at the very least try to keep the channel PG-13. But yes, I am weird, I am on the more mature side of things, and my content is going to straddle that line. Basically, viewer discretion advised, watch at your own risk, other release of liability mumbo jumbo. Anyway, since we talked about my profile, let's pivot to the next aspect of this whole thing, my avatars, since I still don't have a truly entrenched model. I would say this one actually comes close to my ideal, and while I wasn't expecting to hold onto it much after October, it has honestly grown on me to the extent I'd like to keep it around in 2024, or even eventually get line art commissioned of it. And yes, I recently made a new channel trailer showing off the other, much newer avatars I plan to run for specific series, like having one specific to Fallout, and one for End War. They all kind of range from androgynous to moderately girly, and this is where I need to do a bit of a correction of the record. So yes, while I do consider myself a transgender woman, the truth is, I am legally non-binary. Okay, hear me out, hear me out. It was 2019 when I finally got my legal information updated. And that was the first year my home state allowed you to realign your birth identity to non-binary. And the reason I went about it this way was because I knew deep down I was never going to be a 100% girly girl. Like, if I had to put it on a spectrum, I would say I am 65% girly and 35% masculine. You know, in hindsight, I could have said 69-31, but whatever. And this is not ideal when you live in a society that proclaims to the heavens that girls should be girls and men should be men. But society is dumb, and I reject everything society stands for. Why do you think I have developed into a villain VTuber? So that is why I'm fine going by she or they, and it's this distinction that is always going to be the biggest powder keg on my channel. I'm aware that 95% of my viewers are men, because I'm recording in a male-dominated genre. I'm aware that most of you are straight men, who get weirded out when someone looks like a girl, acts like a girl, but doesn't have all the traits of a born woman. Sure, I get that. If you're gonna headcanon me as a femboy or something, that's very much a you thing, and I really don't care one way or the other. But that also is why all of my avatars are very, very androgynous. All of my avatars have the same kind of aesthetic. Flat chest, wacky hair, a slight hourglass waist, pointed jaw under this face mask, thick eyebrows, and a defined collarbone. That's about as close as you can get to me in real life. Hell, I even did a video over the summer showing my IRL self, and I was surprised to find my chest actually jiggles now in certain outfits. Guess those 6 years of estrogen actually did something. Alright, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is asset production, just in general. So yes, most of you know my avatars were made with AI, and I edited them to make them specific to my use case. But there's also a lot of things I've had to create myself. All of my overlays, my thumbnails, and my schedules are done using template files that I created myself from scratch. I first learned Photoshop in 2007, back when I was in my first year of high school. That was actually 16 years ago, and oh my frick, I'm getting old, aren't I? I realize I'm certainly not the best at it, but I know enough to get by. Everything I do comes down to theming, and you're gonna see a lot of that in the overall consistency of my work. As I said last week, art is serious business in the VTuber space, and I feel obligated to demonstrate competency in art, just as I have to demonstrate competency in video games. Oh yeah, about that. I think it's time I come clean about another thing. I hate video games. Again, hear me out. I've been playing video games since I was 7 years old, and back then it felt like games had a different ask of the player than they do in the modern era. A lot of modern video games have become a glorified checklist simulator, and they ask you to complete a set of tasks in order to advance to the next set of tasks to complete. Looking at you, Forza Horizon 4. Even so, I have a diverse array of games in my Xbox library. These are all games I have enjoyed, have put dozens to hundreds of hours in, but the problem is they all eventually become stale. And before I started my channel, I was becoming so disillusioned with gaming that I was very close to giving up the hobby entirely. My goal as a VTuber is to learn to love gaming again by approaching old favorites in new ways. That might include replaying a career with new rules and challenges added, deconstructing a game by finding glitches, or even replaying a single mode of a game over and over just to see how far I can push myself. But the caveat to that is the game also needs to meet me halfway and to be fun in the process of advancing through it. Alright, so this is the point where I need to talk about upcoming games on the schedule. We're getting to a point where we are going to phase out Need for Speed Rivals. I've been doing it for a few months and it did okay, but the time has come to branch out. In November, you'll be seeing The Crew 2 as minute matches, you'll be seeing the Fallout New Vegas Dead Money DLC as a full run, and Tom Clancy's End War as a full run as well, assuming I get all the videos edited and don't flake out halfway through. Now, because I'm trying to double up on shorts every Monday and Wednesday, at least until the end of the year, and because my longer form videos are taking more time to produce these days, hopefully translating to a better quality, I might start going off air 1 or 2 days a week just for the sake of my health and sanity. I've decided to take some Fridays off from now until January, and then in January I'll be taking Fridays and Mondays off to make time for the series I have planned then, because the ones I have planned for 2024 will be even bigger. In the event I do upload on one of those days, it will likely be more road trip talks using the Crew 1. I'd like to talk more about life and personal experiences like I've been doing, even if they are some of the lesser viewed videos on my channel. All in all, I'm trying to do the kind of content I want in the hopes that people who are cut from the same cloth as me will enjoy it. In fact, let's move on to that for a bit. So my tagline, World's Fastest Transgender Architect. Some of the car culture savvy among you will recognize it as a line spoken by Richard Hammond during the Grand Tour. This was a car show on Amazon Prime, literally the spiritual successor to Top Gear UK after the main hosts left. See, while I would argue that there are a great many transgender and non-binary people in the world, there are not as many transgender architects in the world. According to Bard AI, there are approximately between 800 and 2,000 transgender architects in the world, and among those, there's likely even fewer who are into racing and going fast. So, until someone comes to challenge me, I can at the very least claim the title and the non-existent clout such a title provides. Because why the hell not? But my goal as the world's fastest transgender architect is to make that into something that is bigger than myself. What I want is a community both here and in the real world. For YouTube, that means subscribers. Let's start small. Let's say 2,000 people. If some of them were also transgender architects, all the better. Although if all of them were transgender architects, well, I'd have a lot of competition for the title of World's Fastest, and that could be a problem. As far as view counts across my videos, my goal is 250,000 across 2 years. Given I've crossed the 25k threshold in 6 months, if I add 50k in the next 6, 75k in the 6 after, and 100k in the 6 after that, then 25 plus 50 plus 75 plus 100 is 250k. In my mind, that's achievable. It goes without saying that if I do hit 2,000 subs, I'll likely reach the requirements for YouTube Partner in that time. That being said, it's not necessarily a priority for me. Partner would come with new requirements in order to be quote-unquote advertiser friendly, and I don't know if that's something I want to be strong-armed into. But that is why I do run a Ko-Fi as well. I'm very appreciative of those who have already donated so far, and if you do like what I do, Ko-Fi is the best way to help me out. But if financial stuff isn't your thing, the best ways you can help me are obviously watching my old videos if you haven't seen them already, and just telling your friends that you like the content I make and that they should check me out. Trust me, that is more than enough for me to be happy. Finally, the offline goals I have are a bit separate from my content creation stuff, but I still wish to share them with you now. The 2 things I want to do with my life that I've talked about in prior videos even are starting tiny home communities and setting up seaweed farms in the middle of the desert. If I get popular, then I want to use whatever clout I can muster to make these things a reality. I have very specific ideas and approaches to both that I want to get the word out on. So finding people to network with is one aspect of being a VTuber that I hope I can someday leverage. And if all that sounds confusing, know that it still confuses me too. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. I hope it answered some of your burning questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.